Hey YouTube, I'm on a bit of a roll tonight, so I'm going to start the next video on my subroutines of presuppositional apologetics arguments. I sort of feel like I'm on a roll, and I'm just going to start it. I'll probably do it over a period of a few nights. So if you notice my shirt changing, or there's some HP sauce hanging off from my mouth all of a sudden, or there's a bunch of people in the background, I'm just going to do this over a period of days here. So the next subroutine that I'd like to discuss is the need on the part of Cy and Eric to discredit anyone who claims that they were once a Christian. It's very important for them to do this, of course, because a former Christian can shed some light on the dogma and on some of the, for lack of a better word, brainwashing that goes on, and the adherence to scripture above evidence and that sort of thing. They need to discredit these people. So what they generally do, and I'm just going to quote the actual verse here. Yeah, they quote 1 John 2:19, and Cy always says it as, "Those who have left us were never among us." Now, if you actually read the King James version of that, it actually says, "They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us. But they went out, that they might be made manifest that they were not all of us." Now, I've noticed that Cy and Eric have no problem being very pedantic when it comes to grilling their opposition and making sure that they use, little word games and that sort of thing to catch people saying things that they can use in their argument. But they certainly let the Bible off the hook in this case. If you were to say those who have left us were never among us, you can't leave something you weren't among. But at any rate, that's actually not the issue that I have with this argument. So as I said, Eric and Cy have no problem latching on to any unfortunate misplaced word or misused word on the part of their opponent, or certainly make sure that they lure them into the trap with their questioning, their line of questioning, which hopefully people are a little bit more aware of now, because it's really, I think it's disingenuous. I understand Cy thinks it's a debate tactic, and I recognize in some sense that it is. I guess it would be easier to take if people were calling them on it, but there's not a lot of that. I think after the fact, I've listened to some sort of after shows from some of the debates, or even just guest appearances that he's been on, where they've discussed it and they've recognized it in retrospect. But I've even seen it where Cy has accused someone of saying something and they've maybe denied it or whatever, and he's all about getting the tape. I've got you on tape. He said before, I've got so-and-so on tape and so-and-so on tape saying different things. And again, just very, very quick to latch on to whatever they can, because of course that's the only thing they have in the argument, is to try to sort of just the war of words, win the argument that way, rather than actually make any real evidential proof. But the real problem that I have with that, the whole argument that those who have left us were never among us, is that really that puts us all at a disadvantage when believing anything any Christian says, because by that reasoning, the only way you could know that someone is a true Christian would be if they died and hadn't recanted their Christianity. They hadn't changed their minds. If they died and they were a Christian right till the end, then I guess you could say they were among them. I don't understand why I should give Cy ten Bruggencate any more credibility as a Christian than I would, say, Matt Dillahunty, who, at least as far as I know, was a Christian for 20 plus years and believed the doctrine, and was even studying for the clergy. Now, he has left them, so apparently he never was a Christian, but the same can be said of Cy right up until the point where he, say, passes from this mortal coil. We don't know that he might not do the same thing. So why would I take anything that he says as being any more Christian than anyone else? Because really, like I say, by his own reasoning, we can't actually know that someone is a true Christian till they've died while still being a Christian. I was going to compile this video and upload it, and then I realized I hadn't even changed my shirt once. So I thought, okay, well, I better do one more video, one more segment to this video before I upload it so I don't make a liar out of myself. Not really related to the former Christians thing, but one thing that I was thinking about today that Sai does is he talks about answering the fool according to his folly. Some of these little words bother me, and dead words that nobody uses anymore. But anyway, folly. Sai has said that this is not an intellectual, a judgment on intellect. And I can kind of see why he would need to say that. I mean, this does get under some people's skin to be called a fool. And Sai is a little abrasive, so if an abrasive guy calls you fool, it's going to make it's going to sting a little more than if a clown calls you fool, maybe. And he is implored by the Bible, of course, to approach his apologetics with meekness and kindness and that sort of thing. So calling people names probably doesn't work so well. So what he says is, it's not a judgment on intellect, it's a moral charge. Now, and that the moral charge is you're a fool because you're rejecting the God that you know exists. Now, I've got to say it actually is an intellectual charge. In fact, I'd say it's a slam, a pretty harsh slam at that, because if we're rejecting the God that we know exists, we're also rejecting the hell that we supposedly know exists. Now, I'm not even sure that Sai has thought this through all the way as to what the implications really are. Because to call someone a fool for choosing, let's say, 60 to 80 years of hedonistic debauchery here on this life in exchange for an eternity of torment and torture and hellfire, well, this would be an understatement, right? And so I think it is an insult. I think it is a judgment on intellect. And you can't have it both ways, right? You can't say, well, you're rejecting the God you know exists, but when we call you a fool, we don't mean it. We're not calling you down. We're not attacking your intellect. Yeah, you are. If you're going to accuse me of making the most monumental dumb choice possible, it's an eternity, right? Especially when, a little hedonism can be forgiven if you just believe in the right person, right? Then that's an insult. That accusation is an insult. And I think it also goes to the free will argument a little bit too, because I can't make a choice unless I know the choices available to me. That's not free will. That's not free choice, right? And so if you're saying that I've got free will and a free choice, you're saying that I know, and then you're turning around and saying, but we're not making any judgments. And it definitely is a judgment on intellect. So anyway, I just wanted to make that point. I'm going to wrap up this little part of the video, and we'll see. I'm not sure when I'll make the next one, but stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.